Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Heathen Wyrdos coffee break. Today, we're going to be talking about latent atheism. So, grab a beverage of your choice that probably has caffeine in it. I don't know, you do what you do. And feel free to join us. My name is Theo. My pronouns are they, them.
I'm Kenna. My pronouns are she, her. I had to go check the doc to see that I was next.
My name is Sif. My pronouns are she, her.
Yes, I love you guys. So what is latent atheism? From what I understand, it's basically something a lot of ex-atheists or just people in general who may or may not have trouble receiving UPG might experience. Basically, I interpret it as like dismissing everything spiritual because you're just like, that doesn't make sense. I might just be imagining that, or like, I don't feel like that can actually be there. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
No,
Essentially.
that's the bitch.
Yeah. Bitches. All right.
Yeah,
So
it's not a great time.
no, it's not. Like, I've experienced those moments myself, but I've never been an atheist. Which is fine. But like, it's actually an extremely common thing. Like, it's probably just about as common as what's called latent Christianity, which we can talk about in another episode if people want to hear about it. It's basically a term that's been around since like the early 2000s, and I think Sif said C.S. Lewis wrote about it a bit. I'm sure other people have as well. Yeah. But yeah, anyways, I don't know if this term originated with latent Christianity, but it doesn't feel like a far stretch to be like, oh, latent Christianity, what about latent atheism?
It's more goblin-y cousin, I don't know. it's I don't know.
More skeptical cousin?
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Anyways, both Kenna and Sif have experiences with a fair amount of latent atheism, so we're going to ask them about their experiences. Kenna does like to call her latent atheism her mind goblins, or at least some of her mind goblins.
I have many mind goblins. There is a lot going on.
I respect that. So we're gonna go with that. If we call them like the mind goblins in this episode, that's what we're referring to. Just wanted to clarify that early on in the episode. I know how we do as people.
This is how we do.
We are. So I guess to start, like, because I think Sif, you said you were an atheist for a while.
Yeah. About 15 years.
Okay,
that's a lot of years.
And Kenna, were you an atheist?
I was
Okay. For a while until
just
you
most of high school and a lot of college was just me being spiritually
It's valid. So yeah, like, and you know, a lot of people end up being that way, which is totally fine. Like, especially because, you know, when you're in college and shit, you don't have fucking time for that unless you make time for that and don't ever sleep, which, you know, I have no idea what that's about. Anyways, so what made you guys realize there might be a more spiritual aspect to the world? Like, how did you first get into paganism?
You go first, Sif. No, Sif goes first.
Okay. I guess it kind of understands where I came from. Raised Christian. I think we've spoken about this briefly before. I was christened. My family is Church of England, C of E, but not fully practicing. You know, if you asked them if there was a God, they would have said yes. But we never went to church, at least not frequently, although there is the expectation in many primary schools across the UK that, you know, you sing like hymns and stuff in assembly and that sort of thing. So it is just normalized. I know that there was a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses who got out of assembly, and that was basically the religious kind of variety that we had. You either C of E or Jehovah's Witness. And, or atheist, but I don't think I remember anyone being atheist in primary school, at least. I quickly realized that we've spoken about this, I was very obsessed with Greek mythology. And my perspective of that, all of that was, well, these gods aren't considered real. So what's different about the Christian God? This is Christian mythology. And that was basically how I got my head around it. I would say then for the following few years, I was definitely not a Christian. I considered myself an atheist. I would have said I was a pretty hardline atheist in that I was absolutely fine with other people being religious, but for me, I thought that it was, there's no God or gods. The world is how we see it. I went through basically that as a teenager. But then I had my interest peaks when I was reading about seeing people practicing pagan religions, and I was obsessed with Greek mythology, and I thought, oh, there's people that still, worship the Greek gods, and I thought that was quite cool. But then I was always thinking like, okay, but how many people do? Is it just like 20 people in Greece? I wasn't really exposed to anything as far as I was aware in the UK or elsewhere, but I was still very much interested, and I read as much as I could about it and how those practices were gaining in popularity. So all things considered, I'm quite surprised that I became eventually a Norse heathen. I thought for sure that I was going. If you'd asked me if I was going to become any sort of pagan, I probably would have been into Hellenism. But it was like animist elements that really introduced it to me in like my early 20s. And ultimately I felt as an atheist, it was like an erosion over time in terms of going into those beliefs and feeling very empty and adrift and without an anchoring point. And I guess feeling like I was a nihilistic atheist, which I was like, there's no reason to the universe. There's no meaning to life. There is no God. There's no afterlife. I felt that wasn't fulfilling to me. And essentially it was experience that led me ultimately into becoming heathen.
Okay.
So yeah, it was, if you gave like a snapshot of 10 years ago or like 12 years ago around there, I think the difference between then and now would be incredibly stark of, because we had religious debates at university. I remember a couple of times being in the kind of the communal kitchen area, and you had the atheists on one side and the Christians on the other, and it was all very in good faith. And I kind of stood out of it because there was some like hardcore debaters in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just interesting to hearing those perspectives. And it was a case of, among the Christians, there seemed to be some disagreement just on their fundamentals, which in my mind reinforced it for me. The idea that there was a Christian mythology, because some of them believed that Jesus was God, others believed that Jesus wasn't God, and I was almost like, they can't even agree on their basics, But yeah, so I think it was overall quite damaging for me to only be really exposed to Christianity, because, and obviously just for clarity now, I'm fully into allyship with all religions, but it felt like there were so many holes in Christianity, and because I wasn't exposed to other religions, it felt like my only path was atheism at that point. And I feel like that's a hole that a lot of, at least online atheists, get into, is they're only exposed to Christianity. So any weaknesses in Christianity, they use as a monolith across all religions.
Yeah, and I mean,
and obviously that's just not the case.
That's a whole nother episode.
That I was gonna say, that's
yeah.
a whole nother episode. Like, I could go on about. So I was raised. If you're new or haven't heard other episodes, I was raised Lutheran Missouri Synod. My family is very strict. It's very conservative, and like, that thing where like they would tell you like you need to learn about other religions and stuff so you can be more informed about your own, and you can proselytize better and stuff like that. But every time I would try to learn about other religions, because poor sweet summer child Theo way back then was like, oh, that's what they said, I should learn about it. And like, I would have all of my things taken away, and like I would be like grounded and like punished for it. And it's like I was just doing what the pastor said.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and my mom's like, "You're gonna leave the church," and I was like, "If like, but that okay." Here's the thing, like, it's just that strict and conservative, but also like, if other religions are so appealing compared to your own, that's a
Questions.
concern for me. Like, if
just
you
followed instructions.
like, if you're so
fine.
concerned about it that you enforce it on your children so harshly, like, okay. Anyways, whatever. It's fine. Yet again, whole nother episode. But like, anyway, I guess I was trying to agree with Sif, where it's like, yeah, like when Christianity is like the main thing you got going around in your society, like it does literally feel like it's either that or atheism.
Yeah.
Like, or Satan worship, which is the way that it's viewed in those societies is still a form of like going along with the Christian narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah. Kenna.
Yeah. So, what made me real? Well, I think I have told this before. I was raised a Girl Scout, so I've been talking to trees since I understood what trees were. And in all of my atheism as a teenager, I very much remained something of an animist. I think that just made a natural transition into paganism and things for me. I also did a lot I went to Bible school over summer every year. So it was a Catholic Bible school too.
Oh.
And I was always the kid that asked questions like, why do we do the sign of the cross when we pray? And they were like, it's just what we do. And I was like, that's a bad answer.
Those conservative Christian religions don't like the people who ask questions.
I don't know why they liked me. They brought me back every year. And once I got old enough, they put me in charge of the little groups of children.
They put you in charge?
Yeah. Once I hit 7th grade, I was supposed to be like a group leader assistant, but then they gave me the least reliable group leader. So I was a 7th grader in charge of a bunch of kindergartners while we learned about Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. So like, I don't know why they liked me. I don't have good Christian girl vibes.
You don't.
Not even a little.
Like, you don't have like bad person vibes, but like you're definitely not good Christian girl vibes. I don't know.
No, I very clearly have like a witch that will help you when you get lost in the woods vibes.
I mean, same.
Yeah, that's fun.
Like,
I'm not gonna ask for anyone's firstborn child. I'll help you.
Like, sweetie, you're lost. Come here. Like, come on. Let's go this way. Like,
carry that. It's the Girl Scout in me. I don't know. But that was my transition.
That's to
Animism.
atheism? Oh, animism.
From atheism.
Okay.
From growing up in a church that wouldn't answer my questions, or a summer Bible study program that wouldn't answer my questions, to, well, I guess that's not going to work out, to, I don't know, these trees are pretty cool.
Did the getting put in charge of people happen before or after that?
I felt like a secret agent being in charge of those children, knowing full well that I did not believe in or agree with the things that they were teaching those children.
Oh my God, right?
Mm-mm.
There was some of it that was fine. There was a lot of like genuine human values that were being taught, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
But there were also a lot of. One year I was actually reading the Bible for my AP Lit class. It was a summer study program, and I started to notice the stories that Bible school skipped over.
Oh, right.
The details they left out. And I was like, oh, that's not what this story's about. Okay.
I remember, so I am garbage with remembering where things happen in lore, in the Bible, and whatever. Like, just because it is so structured. Like, if you give me, like reading It by Stephen King, which I'm not saying anyone should read that book. I'm not a Stephen King fan. Anyways, hot takes all around here. So, like, I could basically tell you, it's over 800 pages, and I could basically tell you when shit happens in the book, but, like, you put, like, you ask me for, like, a chapter or something, I'm like, just saying. But anyways, so, like, I remember, in spoilers for people, this involves incest in the Bible, biblical incest. Anyways, so, like, I remember, like, when we first covered the story of, like, this one guy who had 2 daughters, and, like, they wanted him to be able to continue his fucking name or some bullshit, so they both, like, got him drunk and slept with him so they could get pregnant and have a son for him. And I'm like, why was this the answer? Like, but anyway, so I remember covering that and being like, what? And they were like, yeah, like, they just really wanted him to have a son and stuff. And I was like, I would like to reiterate, what? Like,
Yeah.
I have so many questions. But anyways, yeah. So that was a thing. And just, like, I remember, like, that's, because we covered that, in retrospect, we covered that when I was, oh god, I must have been, like, 8 or 9, and I'm like, that's way too early.
Don't think too hard about it.
But also, like, that's way too early for a story like that. Like, in
It's
my,
fine.
like, well, I mean, yeah, it is, but, like, so when they told that story, but then, you know, yeah, like Kenna said, like, you go back and you start reading the stories that they left out, and it's like, so, in my family's church, they teach that the Bible is law.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
So, like, it's just like, the pastor wears eyeglasses. And, like, I was on altar. I helped my mom with altar guild, and I helped, like, be an acolyte. I can't remember if it was called being the acolyte, where, like, you lit the candles before the services, and I could 100% tell you that those robes were of mixed fibers. Like, so I'm like, this doesn't make sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, sorry, that's too much Christianity for one episode. That's about atheism. So, yeah, anyways, thank you for my tangent. How did you guys originally get past the urge to dismiss things? Like, did you ask for specific...
Oh, I like that question.
Did you ask for, like, signs, or did you just really have a profound moment of, like, the gods are real?
One of the things to kind of go back on an atheist argument against specifically Christianity is that they believe that if you're a religious person, you can't question anything, right? And I think that one of the benefits of paganism in general is an almost encouragement to question and to remain skeptical or keep learning and evolving your beliefs over time. And to answer that question, I think that I wouldn't say that I continue to dismiss things, but I'm comfortable in not knowing and in being like, well, you know, the law says that, you know, most of us will probably end up in hell. I would, you know, that'd be great if that happened, but at the same time, I'm not fussed or certain or etc. about what happens after we die. So I guess that kind of leans into that in the idea of I always ask for more specifics or question something or anchor it to, I guess, like a grounding element. I would say that in terms of making that jump between like being an atheist to a pagan, it was a case of there is so many things happening that I cannot logic away that, you know, there must be some sort of truth or personal truth to these beliefs. I would say that the kind of a really profound moment that I was a practicing heathen when it happened, but it was having that first really profound experience with Freya that just wiped, doubt away. But that's not to say that I haven't doubted since. But it's a case of, I am firmly heathen. I don't have doubts in terms of that. But I think questioning experiences is really quite a healthy thing to do. But yeah, asking for more specific signs, as we've said in past episodes, is a good thing to do because you're hedging those uncertainties. But I would also say that being uncertain is a good thing overall because you're not blindly accepting everything. Because you do otherwise get into the habit of, oh, this was a sign and this was a sign. And, there's obviously more mundane explanations for it.
It's like,
and I think
this was a sign, but like I actually just needed to tighten the taps on my sink.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Are you really haunted, or do you just need to close your cabinets a little better, friend?
Or do you have a cat that's really good at opening cabinets?
Yeah. No, I agree with all of Sif. Learning how to be okay with not knowing is the hard part. And after that, it is much easier to transition yourself into what works for you if it's asking for more signs. Or I've heard people say that the heathen gods like a challenge. And I have found that to be true. It's kind of fun. It's like asking an old, like, war-tattered veteran to prove to you that he was ever a badass.
Yeah.
And it's really funny to see how that plays out.
But yes, Sif, was there more you wanted to add?
Oh, just a little bit of the recognizing when there are mundane explanations make the sacred moments more special. And I know that sounds a bit redundant.
I think that makes sense.
But it's a case of, yeah, I mean, if you say everything is a religious moment, then the true religious moments almost have less of an impact. And there's something obviously innately special with those. And yeah, and you can, and they're obviously, this is why we say UPG. They're moments that you can learn more about the gods from and your belief and all of that in general. So yeah, that's my spiel.
Good spiel.
Thank you.
Kenna.
Wyrdos Sif. More specific sign thing definitely helped me because I'm dramatic. I need to be smacked upside the head to get hints. It was easier for me to transition into asking for more specific signs because I came into paganism from semi-secular, like, witchcraft path. I had done that for like 6-7 months when I came into the heathen sphere of the world. So it was I had already been like talking to plants and rocks and shit. So it didn't feel like quite as intense of a transition as going from a stark nothingness to all of the somethings. So I didn't have a lot of that, like, culture shock in a way. And I think I'm gonna plug our old episode about me and my moon man, my Mani, was probably the big one for me, and I'm not gonna rehash it because it's been recorded and posted, but you can go watch that one because it's cute. And as an update, I have an office and I'm a teacher now. So
okay, so we have that.
I do have something to add that I've just thought about. I think it's, at least in my experience, Christianity feels very ungrounded in terms of, I know that we talk a lot about the gods and kind of like higher theology and all of that stuff, but I feel like one of the biggest draws of paganism is how grounded it is, how grounded in reality it is. Because I know heathens and pagans who, we'll touch on this probably in the next recorded episode, that don't worship the gods at all. And they're very much more about the earth we live on and, nature and making sure that flourishes. And I feel like having that as a cornerstone of pagan beliefs in general was quite helpful in terms of getting over what was latent Christianity. I think it's quite helpful. I've spoken to a few pagans who they're all about, obviously the gifting cycle is immensely important, but that's the gifting cycle of like the land wides and literally the land that you live on, and seeing the earth as a big organism in that is their day to day, and they don't interact or offer to the gods at all. It is just the earth, what you can see around you and flourishing in that. So that it feels more in general more grounded in that element, because I feel like, and this may be a massive overgeneralization, but Christianity is very much focused on God and the afterlife. And whilst they understand that, potentially God created the earth and the universe, there seems to be a distance between that and like daily practice or prayer or whatnot. Whereas I like it being grounded in what you can touch, what you can feel, the soil beneath your feet, the rivers and all of that. And that's helpful to me in terms of, again, feeling like I'm not adrift as an atheist. I felt like I was very disconnected from the earth and the planet and the where I was born and all of that. So there we go, secondary spillover.
Okay. So I know that one way to look into science or spiritual experiences is to be skeptical and to logic it all out. Like, I do that a lot myself, just because, like, as I said earlier, like, was that a sign, or do I just need to tighten the taps? Like, kind of thing. Do you guys have a more specific method you use when you're asking for signs, or, like, do you think it's valuable to be skeptical in general?
I've just realized this was the next question.
I love you. See, look, you're doing what I do, and you're accidentally leading into the next thing.
Yeah. I think it's valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. As previously explained.
Yeah. Like, but are there methods you use for, like, more specific signs? Like, could you give if you don't mind, could you give a couple of examples?
Yeah. I know that I can do this. I know that my first few kind of reaching out to Freya and having what I, even in like hindsight, I still don't know whether there were signs, but it was a case of having that like physiological response in some in feedback for an offering made. Okay. And it was a case of those, especially those first few, where I was still, I wouldn't say I wasn't an atheist, but obviously my skeptical brain was very much on high alert. So it was interesting to me to have those reactions, like an increased heartbeat, just a giddiness and a kind of all of that. Having that reaction to after a ritual was very new to me, and I was very much on high alert of, okay, is this Freya saying she liked the offering, or is this where is this feeling coming from?
Just like massive amounts of dopamine, or is this real?
Exactly. And I still have that to this day of what is causing this reaction physically. Because obviously the mental aspect is I'm getting enjoyment, I'm happy after doing a ritual, but then there's the associated feelings that even when I was fully skeptical, still came through. And it was a case of trying to pass why I was feeling that, what was happening. And I guess there's a certain element of mindfulness to it all. And it was a case of, okay, if I did a bit of like an experiment to myself to see like, okay, what is giving me this feeling? And it was a case of kind of, eliminating different things and being like, well, it's not that. It's not the fact that I just had coffee or whatnot. So I came at it from quite a scientific perspective, and that I was like, I'm looking. Yeah, I was just like, well, this is fun, and I'm sure Freya probably got a good laugh out of it as well. Just like what is she doing? just like I'm setting up this. I feel like pretty sad today. I'm gonna do a ritual.
Taking meticulous notes about all of the background information.
Yeah, and just being like, okay, what symptoms have I had after this ritual, and writing those down.
I mean, that's valid.
Yeah. Like, I love it because it's so different from what I did. I just decided that I needed to believe in something and started.
Oh, okay.
Essentially.
Yeah. I mean,
heck valid. Yeah.
Like, those are both really valid, though. Like, yeah.
I think, that was sort of the way that I felt like I had to do it, because I couldn't make the jump. I was as in like make that complete flip.
Mhm.
So I had to kind of ease myself into it. I guess it is a bit like Kenna's Marnie UPG in that you did the tarot reading, and you saw like the moon kept popping up. But for me, it was I need to figure out why my body is reacting the way it is just after ritual, and other things like it. It wasn't just during ritual. It was just my general happiness just reading about the lore, and that sense of, a lot of people say this, a sense of right, a sense of going down the right path, a sense of coming home. And I was trying to dissect those feelings essentially in terms of, is there any logical reason for me to feel this way? And if not, is it spiritual?
At what point does it become logical to decide that it's a spiritual explanation?
Yeah. And ultimately having that massive, profound experience with Freya where it felt so outside of me in that I couldn't deny it anymore. And that was really where the switch flipped.
I was mad when I got to that point. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny. I like it. Oh, goodness. So, Sif, you kind of talked earlier about how, like, you just, like, get to the point where it's, like, you just don't know sometimes. And it's, like, I understand that it can be really uncomfortable to not know. I mean, because, like, technically we don't know anything. It's why critical thinking can be really valuable. But if we're going to be honest, as I'm literally repeating myself right now, like, you're just not going to know. And, like, how have you guys coped with that?
I don't know.
I think it depends on the person. I know some people are very focused on the truth. What is true? There can only be one true religion. What is that true religion?
Sure.
We've bumped into it a few times, and for me, it's a case of I don't know what's true. I'm comfortable with not knowing, because of the fact that in the interim, life is very short. I think there are elements that we cannot know by virtue of being mortal, and having quite a limited perspective in that, we can only see just in like the scientific way of we can only see in certain like light wavelengths. There's things that we can't experience, we can't see X-rays, etc. And you can expand that out to even greater things. Like we just using our eyes, we can see the sun, but sometimes we can see the planets. But if you were just to go from that perspective, our world would be a lot smaller than it that we know it to be. Yep. So in my way, it's a case of, if we expand that spiritually, there are some things that we will never know and we cannot know. And I think, me personally, like dedicating vast amounts of brain space to thinking about that feels like not a waste of time, but you're kind of getting lost in the forest or bushes or whatever the idiom is. And the trees, there we go. And you forget to just enjoy and find pleasure in the simple things. And for me, my religion, my beliefs give me joy. And I don't know what's going to happen when I die, but I know that in the grand scheme of things, that's not a long time away. So I've got to focus on what I can do now, how I can help people, how I can make myself feel grounded and feel better, and all of that. So that's basically how I've coped with it. It's understanding that there are some things that as a human I will never know, and to accept that. And to be honest with you, I have accepted it. It's when death comes, it's it's going to be a thing. I'm going, there it is, and that's it. And we'll see what happens if there is a life after death and all of that. Maybe I will see my ancestors. Maybe I end up dying in battle and go to Valhalla and have a time of it.
It's like, no.
Damn it.
It's like, I did not plan this.
No, thank you.
It's like,
Decline.
it's like, Odin, I appreciate the offer, but you know,
Send me
I'm
to
just gonna-
Freya.
Go.
yeah, yeah. If I can have a choice,
please.
it's like, please don't make me go there. Please don't make me go there. It's like, this is a lesson for no.
Please.
We'll see. Well, you know, it might be fun. It might not be. Who knows?
I mean, for all we know, Valhalla isn't anything remotely like they say it is.
I should just actually be a frat house.
Oh my god. I still don't want to go.
Anyway, not knowing sucks. It's not great.
But it's fine.
I am a little spicy, and I think if not knowing is one of the things that is really a hang up for you in your spiritual practice, be it because of latent atheism or a desire to be right or to do anything correctly, I think that's a therapist conversation. Because as I was exploring spirituality and faith and learning how to be comfortable with not knowing, I had to work through a lot of that anxiety. Don't be like me. I chose to do it by myself, and it was not smart or great. I did the thing, and I spent a lot of time outside and meditating and doing journaling and all of the things. And I found that as I worked through the fear of being wrong in my personal life, people pleasing that I do in my personal life, as I worked through that, I got more comfortable with being unsure and not knowing spiritually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So like, once you guys got past it, did your mind goblins ever get any quieter? Like, are they just like sometimes louder than others, or?
I got a little less aggressive.
Mm.
They still go, hey, are you sure that's not just a fucking crow?
Like, shut up.
And now they don't scream it from the rooftops. They're just like, remember, sometimes crows just do crow things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think obviously some days are better than others. Some days I'm fully on, like, yes, this is 100%. And sometimes, the mind goblins come in and just like, but you know, these are myths, right? And it's like the old atheist me, like 12 years ago me is just sitting in my brain and just planting seeds of doubt. I think that's totally normal. I think, especially if you came from being an atheist and being, I was firmly, this is my truth. This is, God or gods don't exist. I think it's, at least from my perspective, it's healthy to have and expected to have those thoughts coming in. Because again, it, as I touched on earlier, it makes the truly religious moments that you can't logic away that much more powerful. Because it's like almost showing, yeah, it's like showing, well, see, how do you explain that? And then the little goblin's like, I don't know.
Like, I don't know, fucking science or something. Yeah, I think my atheist goblins have turned much more into like skeptical devil on shoulder and like obnoxious goblin under a bridge.
They're trolls. Oh, good.
So I would say that anyone that was an atheist that is listening to this now and just like, you may have had so many of these moments of pure doubt. They're totally normal. Absolutely.
Totally normal. I think it's way more...
you're not any less of a pagan for being unsure.
Yeah,
it's healthy.
It's totally healthy.
Doubt.
It is fine to go slow.
Yep.
It is fine to sit through a ritual and halfway through look around and go, this is fucking weird. I did that a number of times, but the fact that it's fucking weird doesn't make it any less special, because maybe you're still feeling that swell in your heart and you're going, what the fuck? It's just a part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And like, I think that latent atheism is actually way more common than people think it is.
100%. Yeah. And it's only going to get more common as atheism grows and paganism grows.
That's true. So that was kind of like the next point. And you guys kind of talked about pacifying your mind goblins. Are there any ways that you pacify them more, or are there any tips you have for people that you haven't mentioned yet?
I would, when I ever have my big doubting moments, I do lean back on the moments that I know felt particularly potent, because those are like milestones, they're touchstones of me being able to go, I can't logic this away, this must be something. So definitely, I mean, you're not going to forget them, but keep those in mind whenever you're having a bit of a bad day. Also, going in being as skeptical as you're comfortable with means that I almost find comfort in systematically kind of like being logical in terms of experiences, but also not having the answers. So that definitely helps. Of, well, I can't explain this away. In terms of tips, I would say that we're pagans and we worship these gods fundamentally because obviously we want to. And this path gives us happiness, purpose, potentially. You know, we enjoy doing it. After ritual, we get, you know, the giddy feelings. The gods that we worship are driven and help us and guide us. You know, they're not malevolent for the vast majority of them. And they want us to succeed and to get better and be better people. And, you know, the grounding elements of our belief are based in helping our communities, being better people, honoring our ancestors, honoring the spirits of the land and the house. And, you know, there's none of that is bad. So obviously this will vary person to person, but personally for me, even, you know, those elements really shine brightest and true for me. And, you know, being a pagan, being a heathen has made me a better person. Okay. Yeah. So those are the tips. Focus on what makes you happy. Okay. There we go.
Kenna, do you have anything to add?
I think my biggest tip, not to sound like anyone's therapist, but I think that the skepticism and the mind goblins are kind of like emotions, and the more you try to ignore or repress them, the louder they get. So my biggest piece of advice for people struggling with them is to simply allow it to exist within your brain, which is easier to say than it is to do. And also it is an exercise in letting yourself exist with two ideas, which is uncomfortable but beneficial.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely something to be said for allowing yourself to exist with unpleasant things. Like, it's not
important life skills.
Yeah, I was like, it's not fun. But it's important.
It sucks.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it fucking sucks. But yeah, just like it's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was the crux of the therapy that I've just finished.
Yeah. It's not great, is it?
Being able to sit with anxiety and uncertainty.
Just accept that it's there.
Literally.
Yeah, and it's a feeling.
Yeah, like...
I have applied the same techniques that you would apply to identifying, naming, identifying, and processing through uncomfortable emotions to the latent atheism. You sit down, you go, am I being a dick or am I just struggling with skepticism?
Yeah.
This is latent atheism. This is what I can do about it. It's a whole, just...
Yeah, I was...
Go to therapy.
Yeah, I would say that I, so I took a mindfulness course, like an in-person, like multi-month mindfulness course where you had homework and everything. And like, I honestly feel like that really helped me immensely. I'm not saying anyone needs to take an actual class.
But working on mindfulness is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, we did, we followed the teachings of John Kabat-Zinn. And, like, oh my god, I can't even tell you how much I fucking hated it at first. Like, I don't have words for how much I loathed it at first.
You know it's gonna be good.
Yeah, well, like, and that's why I did it. But I hated it, and like, so like, I want to say honestly, for the first half of the class, I was skeptical. I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. This is a waste of money. I mean, work paid for it through like a wellness program that was voluntary. And I kept doing it because if I didn't, I would have to reimburse work. But I was so skeptical. But by the end of the class, like, it was so helpful. Yet again, you don't have to take an actual class. Like, it's John Kabat-Zinn. We'll probably type his name somewhere and like list it below. But like, he has a lot of books. And you can just do individual study. I know there are also like blogs and other things that like lay out his teachings a little bit. Anyways, that's all I have for that. Like, mindfulness is really beneficial. Like, it's actually also really helped me in my spirituality as well.
Agree.
Yeah.
Are we ready to wrap?
Yeah, we are. You want to do the recap, Kenna?
Right. I mean, I guess the recap is that latent atheism is real and exists, and no, you're not the only one who has ever experienced that specific brand of skepticism. It's fine. It's not fun, but it's fine, and there are things you can do to try to talk yourself out of over-rationalizing your spiritual beliefs. Being skeptical doesn't make you less of a pagan. It's okay. Promise. Yeah. Atheism is bitch, but doing things like asking for more specific signs, mindfulness work, etc., you can actually work to cope with and handle that skepticism in a productive way. You're not alone. Not we all, because Theo didn't have it quite so much, but Sif and I are with you.
I mean,
been there.
I think it's a normal thing. Like, even if you're not like full blown like coming from atheism, like you can experience it to some degree.
I mean, the same way that atheists also have a little bit of latent Christianity just because of the culture that we are raised in, especially in the States and in the UK, that like enforced Christianity within the culture leaves you with a little bit of leftovers.
Leftovers.
Yep.
Oh, just leftovers.
That's a good description. But yeah, with that, thank you all for joining us. If you guys have ever had any experiences with latent atheism, or even just what you think about the phrase latent atheism, comment below. I'd love to hear it. I'm sure Sif and Kenna would as well. We love hearing from you guys. On that note, we do have a Discord. It is totally free. It will be linked below. Come join us. We love to chat there, and it's a decently active Discord. We also have a Patreon, so if you're able and willing, please feel free to join us there. We have extra things like some live coffee break recordings, and we also like put polls for upcoming content and other things there, and a monthly Sif art drop. It's a fun time. Beyond that, we have a Redbubble that we try to update semi-routinely. It's pretty fun. We have a few fun things there, like stuff for Ratatoskr and some Damn You Snorri. So that'll be linked below too. Feel free to check that out. That all being said, don't forget to weave the connection between the like, subscribe, and bell button. And remember, keep heathenry weird. We did it!